I make the best tea. Hi there, how is your day? So Splatoon 3 is here now. After all the debate on whether or not it should actually even, exist, it does. It exists ready for us to play and rather conveniently discuss. Now I know that there's a lot of discussion on this game even happening as a whole, but I want to say immediately, I'm going to try my best to not let my opinion on the matter affect my review. I'm an honest little cartoon character through and through, and I want to give any game I review a fair chance going in, even the ones with the worst reputations or controversy surrounding them. But let's forget all the boring, technical mumbo-jumbo and get to the thing that you came here for, Splatoon 3. Splatoon 3 is unsurprisingly the third entry in the Splatoon series, and also the second Splatoon game on Switch. With all this context, it definitely has a lot to live up to, so do me the honour of joining me today as we take a look at Splatoon 3. So those of you who've been keeping up with my channel for a while now will know that I am not a fan of the single player campaigns offered in any of the base Splatoon games. The story modes, to me at least, just felt like lazily cobbled together crap just put there so that they could say there was a single player. And while the Octo expansion was an incredible step in the right direction, it was still DLC, and while it's still great, it being DLC just kinda stopped a lot of people from experiencing it. Heck, I didn't experience it for the longest of times until my comment section peer pressured me into doing so thanks guys, love ya! No, but really, you should like, comment, and subscribe, please. But I am glad to say with 100% certainty that this is no longer an issue, because Splatoon 3 has an actually good story mode packed in right off the bat. And not only is this a good story mode that's better than the other two modes included in the previous games, but I'd even say it's better than Octo expansion. But why is that? Well, let's begin with the most obvious improvement. The overworld. Gone are the odd floating platforms, as we now have a connected semi-open world to mess about in. And not only is this overworld a visual treat that better connects the levels, but it's more so just a big level itself. Throughout the overworld, you can find secrets upon secrets, and your new accomplice, Little Buddy, can point out even more secrets. And for even more secrets, then you just have to take Little Buddy, lob him at the closest blob of fuzzy ooze, don't ask, to clear it out, and then open up more of the map. But just punting a salmonid at this ooze won't be enough to take it out, as before you can even think about tossing him at the ooze, you need to make sure you have enough power eggs to do so. This is one of the other big change-ups to the story mode, as now power eggs are more important than ever. You need them not only to access more areas on the map, but on some levels you even use them to pay an entry fee Octo expansion style, and if you don't have enough, then you're not getting in. This helps make collecting power eggs feel a ton more impactful and important than ever before. It's not just that weird orange junk lying around in levels anymore, but instead a valuable resource. And once you have enough to pay the fee, well, the levels won't disappoint, as these are the same well-designed levels as always, only a lot more fun than usual. Seriously, I don't know what it is, but something about these levels just feels a lot more entertaining than the other games. These levels, just like the moons in Odyssey, will keep you saying, okay, just one more all night long. However, that doesn't mean they're perfect. Something I picked up on after doing this single player Splatoon thing a few times over is that once they establish a gimmick, they have a habit of coming back to said gimmick over and over again. Things like these sponges or these zip wire thingies or these thingamabobs won't stop showing up again and again and again. And while it's good to have your game series share elements to keep it feeling like the same game series, just like Mario's coins or mushrooms, this definitely feels a lot like overkill, especially when some of these levels that utilize these returning assets as the main gimmick feel very similar to levels seen in previous games. For example, take a look at this zip wire thingy level in Splatoon 2, this zip wire thingy level in Octo expansion, and this zip wire thingy level in Splatoon 3. See what I mean? These levels are basically the same thing again and again and again, and it's gotten to the point that playing these levels isn't nearly as fun as playing the other levels with, new stuff, because of how many times we've seen it done already. And while it doesn't destroy the game for me or anything, it definitely can be a bit disheartening at times, and as far as the actual story goes, I am loving this mode so far. I haven't even completed the story yet, and it's already helped me appreciate the game and its world that much more, especially when it comes to Deep Cut. If you've watched my previous video where I spoke about Splatoon 3, you'll know that I am not a fan of Deep Cut. Their designs are ugly as all hell, and to me at least their personalities are extremely cookie cutter with little development as far as the news segments go. But how they've been handled in the story has not only made me gone from hating them to kind of loving them, but has also given me a greater appreciation for their cookie cutter nature during the news segments. I know that without the context of the story that's gonna sound weird, but I'm trying to avoid spoilers here, okay, so just play the game and you'll see what I mean. And as far as the story is presented, I couldn't be happier. There are so many more cutscenes than usual, and the visuals and animations animations featured in those cutscenes are just gorgeous. The way that the story is presented is for the most part amazing, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily perfect. I do have one issue with the story of all of these games, one I've mentioned before, and that is the lack of voice acting. Okay, before you type out any angry comment telling me how a fictional language is a big part of the world and the way it's built, just hear me out. I enjoy the sense of world building gained by this fictional language, I really do, but there is so much dialogue in these games. Even just outside of the story there's a lot. And what makes it worse is the fact that during the story mode's levels there will be dialogue that plays out on the bottom of the screen. This serves as a neat way to further flesh out the characters, which again, I love, but my god do I never get to enjoy it. I'm busy splatting up bad guys and completing platforming, I can't do that and read all this dialogue at the same time. And I can't tell you how much I hate that. I love this world and its characters to bits, as I've gone over previously on this channel, and I feel like I miss out on so much of it because I'm busy doing stuff while it's taking place in the background. But if there was voice acting instead of text, that wouldn't really be much of a problem. So time for the score. I'm going to give a 9 out of 10 for the story here. This is a really worthwhile experience, but it does have the odd flaw here and there. Nothing to completely bring the whole thing down, but flaws that can hinder the experience from time to time. As I've already mentioned, I love the world of Splatoon. The lore, the characters, the areas we get to explore, it's all great stuff. And never has any of those things felt as good as they do in Splatoon 3. This game is immersive without being intrusive, the characters are better than ever, and the world as a whole is by far the best we've ever seen it. And this is in no small part thanks to the new city this game takes place in, because oh my god this thing is good. Not only is it bigger than we've ever seen it, but it also houses a lot more to boot thanks to the menus being completely gotten rid of. Now when you go to play Turf War, Salmon One or any other online game mode, you are welcomed by a big old lobby full of stuff to do. But this also never gets in the way, as instead of having to make your way through this lobby to play the mode, the area where you begin a game is always close to wherever you enter. On top of this, once you've selected your game mode and readied up, you don't sit through a loading screen, you instead just hang around and explore this lobby, testing out your weapons and whatnot. This is immersion done right. A couple of videos ago I spoke about how the Splatoon franchise can often take immersion too far, having it be more intrusive and immersive, but here it is done perfectly. Although I won't say I have no problems, I mean of course I won't, apparently I can't just be happy with something for once. Leading up to this game, they very heavily emphasised the fact that this all took place in the Splatlands, a less grander part of the Splatoon world, putting an emphasis on how run down and dystopian everything is. I mean, they literally put the line from a big city to the backwaters on the box of the game, which just makes zero sense. This is the biggest city we've seen so far, but beyond a couple of the stages having ruins in the background, I never really got the vibe that this was some rundown part of the world. Even the story mode takes place in its own completely different area called Alterna, which puts more of an emphasis on snow and ice than anything. What makes this even worse is the fact that the tutorial gives us a taste of this whole idea by taking place in a desolate wasteland, with our characters being covered in a shroud and wearing shredded clothing. But beyond this little taste, the idea is barely ever embraced at all. I guess I was just expecting a little more with how much they really seem to lean into the whole Splatland thing leading up to release. I'm gonna give this another 9 out of 10. While this is the best we've seen the world of Splatoon so far, there were definitely some missteps along the way. Okay, this is where I really start getting harsh. Let's start out with the positives. As I mentioned earlier, the story mode here is the best we've ever seen it by miles. I already went into detail about it like 5 minutes ago, so I'll spare you the nitty gritty a second time through, but it goes without saying that I really enjoyed the changes made here. And of course you have the new game mode, Table Tough Battle, which is pretty nice, but definitely not my style. It's good, don't get me wrong, and I can see a lot of people having fun with this, but I guess I'm just not one of those people. Alongside this, there are other smaller new additions, such as the new weapon types for Splatana and the bow. These are both decent fun to play with, but they can be awkward from time to time. Nothing that can't be fixed with a few tweaks, so I wouldn't call that a big problem or anything. Or how about the lockers? These lockers are, well, lockers that are completely customizable in all ways. It even comes equipped with its own set of physics, which is pretty cool. And while it does feel like a workaround to the highly demanded apartments, I'm happy with this, as I feel such an enclosed space just couldn't work with Splatoon. I mean, it barely worked in Octo expansion with the Deep Sea Metro. You get to decorate and arrange these lockers however you see fit using random junk you pick up from the new general store, and can I just say I love the store owner here. She is adorable and her personality is great. They even use her to throw in a reference to the classic Ultra Hand, which is just neat. We also have some new actual gameplay additions such as the Squid Surge and the Squid Roll, and I most certainly have opinions on these two things. While the both of these are good ideas in concept, they each have a big flaw holding them back. Let's start off with the Squid Roll. The Squid Roll allows you to dash out of ink in the direction of your choice in one quick movement, and this is easily my favourite of the two to use. That is if I could use it. You see, to use this move, you're supposed to flick the control stick in whatever direction you want, but I'd say at least 40% of the time, it just doesn't work. And I think the solution to this is obvious: give the squid wall its own damn button. When you're in the ink, the only buttons you'll really be using are B to jump and the left trigger to stay in the ink, so why not use literally any other buttons on offer here to activate this move? And then you have the squid surge, which just feels kinda useless. You're supposed to jump onto a wall and hold B to charge up a surge that sends you up the wall quickly, but the thing is, this isn't quick. It takes a lot longer to sit there holding B to charge up this surge than it does just mashing B to make your way up the wall. But what about Salmon 1? Why is there a black screen? I wanted to look at all the new content in Salmon 1. Oh. Yeah, Salmon 1 is pretty barren. Here's a list of all the new things added: 4 new salmonids, a random encounter with a king salmonid, and a tornado that appears sometimes. And that about sums it up. You might say that I'm overreacting here. I mean, 4 new salmonid and the addition of a king salmonid, that's pretty big, right? While these are nice and welcomed additions, it just doesn't feel sequel worthy, and this can be seen throughout the whole game. The general gameplay in modes such as Turf War, Salmon Run, really any of the online game modes have gone virtually untouched. You'll have small changes, but they either just don't work like the Squid Wall or Squid Surge, or are nothing overly huge to write home about like new salmonids and weapons. These are admittedly nice changes, but for a full-blown sequel, these don't feel like nearly enough. I understand the fact that this was too much to be DLC or an update, but this also feels like too little to be a full sequel. Currently, people are saying that the game will fully take form a few years down the line, and I honestly hope it does. Maybe then I can revisit it and update you on my thoughts, but as of right now, the changes present aren't enough to make for a full sequel, at least for me. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go for a 6 out of 10 here, and a lot of that is coming from how good the gameplay of the story mode is. Now don't take this as me saying the game has bad gameplay, because I actually believe the opposite. The ideas at play here are amazing and a crap ton of fun, but these ideas I'm crediting are also almost a decade old now, and beyond a couple of micro changes, it doesn't feel like anything massively new. Again, depending on how it's all handled, my opinions very well could change, but as of right now, this is just how I feel. Okay, time to get back to praising this game, because wow, these visuals are fantastic. The visual jump from Splatoon 1 to 2 was awe-inducing 5 years ago, and the visual jump from Splatoon 2 to 3 is exactly the same. Everything from the lighting to the textures have all been given a lovely looking shine, all while maintaining a constant 60 frames per second. Now I've never been and will never be someone to obsess over FPS, but I can't deny how impressive that is, especially with the Switch. Something that I particularly appreciate here is the lighting, as the upgrades made to it here are obvious, especially with returning stages. Any roughness from Splatoon 2 has been completely ironed out here, resulting in not just the best looking game in the franchise, but one of the best looking Switch games, hands down. 9 out of 10. I've expressed how much I adore the music in this franchise before, and Splatoon 3 is no different. We have another fresh batch of great songs. A personal favourite of mine is this game's version of Now or Never, aka the song that plays throughout the last minute of each Turf War. The version here is my favourite so far, it's just so peppy and fun. For me, this is a clean cut 8 out of 10. The music here is great, but given that this is the 3rd game in the series, I'd definitely say that it might have to do a little more to wow me nowadays. Splatoon 3 is one of the most stellar looking, sounding, entertaining, and just plain fun games to come out this year. Its story mode is the best from the Splatoon series by a long margin, and some of its newer offerings are genuinely pretty neat. The visuals and world are also at their respective peak here, with the music not lagging too far behind either. But I'd just be flat out wrong to say that this is a weird feeling sequel. While I'm personally not one of the people saying we only need one of these per console, I love Splatoon and more of it is always a treat. I have to say that the amount presented here, at least right now, doesn't feel like enough to fully justify a sequel. And this is made even worse when you consider the fact that they had 5 years to make this game, and while I don't claim to know jack about game design, I'm gonna guess that 5 stinking years is more than enough to come up with more than just 2 new weapons and moves. Despite all this, the game does seem to be a financial juggernaut right off the bat, as in Japan only, the game has already sold 3 million copies, and that was just within the first 3 days alone. Would I recommend buying it? Personally, I've had a ton of fun with it so far, even in the areas I felt could have been more improved, but for now I'd say if you're skeptical, maybe give it a while and a couple of updates before picking it up. But if you're pretty sure you could have a good time with it, chances are you will, and in that case, absolutely pick this game up. And without further ado, let's find out the final score. 8.2 out of 10. Welp, I would like to thank you for watching and give you a second bonus and slightly sappier thank you for the recent support of my channel, especially to those of you who subscribed. Whoa, you should do that if you haven't already. Maybe one day I'll have enough subscribers to own all the tea in the world. A cartoon can dream. Speaking of which, I'm out of tea. I'm gonna have to fix that. Have a lovely day. Bye!